as an expat manager, obviously, but you have so much experience in China, what are some of the challenges you have faced?
Right. So being an expat manager in China, the biggest challenges that I had were number one, just getting used to the language and the culture, which are incredibly different.
Mhm.
On the language side, I study Chinese still. I've been studying it now for 20 years, and I'm
Mhm.
never going to be native capability. It's just a very, very hard language. So that's one barrier, and it's very important to understand Chinese. I mean, you could go out to dinner with a partner, or you're sitting at a table with the customer, and they're spitting out these idioms, and they
Mm,
just go on and on and on, and you really need to have a grasp of the Chinese language to be able to
mm.
really connect with people. So I would say that that's one challenge.
Right. So I would like to applaud you because it is a very difficult language. And don't worry, even Chinese people have a difficult time with it, to be honest, because there is old Chinese language and new Chinese language. And the way people speak in old, I assume your idioms means 成语 and
Yeah,
these kind of stuff, right?
yeah.
So for people that doesn't know what that means, is there's a lot of phrases that poets and people used back in the days during the dynasty age to describe certain situations, uh, topics and stuff that is harder, probably really hard for a foreigner to understand, because you need to understand the context of the history in a way as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's the language is really hard. The another thing that's really hard really is the relationship building at a superficial level.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is you have different types of relationships. You have relationships with people that you meet one or two times, or customers, and then you have relationships with people that last 10, 15, 20 years.
Hmm.
And I think when it comes to the relationships with really close Chinese friends and business partners, I really don't think they're all that different from relationships with people in the United States, to be
Yes,
honest.
that's very true. Yes.
They're just really good friends, and after a
Yes.
while, they treat you just as if you were Chinese. That's not a problem, but the problem really is at the superficial level, where you're
Hmm.
just getting to know a person, and that might involve a lot of things in the Chinese culture, which start with maybe drinking, gift giving,
Hmm.
things like this. That as a Westerner, there's just a whole lot of things that you have to
Right.
learn,
Right.
and you never really. I don't like drinking baijiu. I'm never gonna like it. It just
Yeah.
tastes like crap. But
Yeah.
but the Chinese love it.
It's a strong alcohol. It's at least 50%, if not more. My dad have one that's 70%. That's like drinking petrol almost.
Oh yeah.
So, so you're really, I mean, this is extremely true, and I have many conversation about this. Although I sort of have, I mean, I have the same opinion as you do. Although a lot of people seem to misunderstand the idea of guanxi, because they tend to think guanxi means relationship, but to Chinese people, guanxi just means guanxi. It just means I have a connection. I might be able to get something if I give them a gift. It doesn't there. You can even say, I can use the word guanxi in terms of, say, I have a very good friend and I have sort of a connection, but I can also use that as like, oh, I know this person, and in order for me to get that, I might need to give them a gift. So, but for the most part, guanxi tends to be on the more superficial level, which is true. Which it isn't, and you're 100% right. If you get to know some Chinese people and you know them on a very personal level, they're really good friends, right? And they're actually really, really nice people, extremely nice people. However, there's also, again, if you go back and watch all the Chinese dramas, you sort of kind of understand why people do what they do. It is because Chinese are raised to sort of understand that if you don't fight for what you want, you will lose out.
Hmm.
That's sort of the mentality, and that if you have the power, you need to get much stuff. Like it's just sort of the mentality that a lot of people grew up with. That does not mean everyone's like that, but you're dealing with 1.3 billion
Yep,
people,
that's right.
right? It's three times the population. So you're definitely going to run into more of that than say you will be running into the States. But vice versa, you're going to have the similar type of people, say here in Canada, in US, probably a lot less, but there will be people like that. So I would really urge people to go to China to understand that, but also understand it also really based on who you're dealing with, and understand who they are is very important as well.
Steve, I'd also, just to be fair, I'd like to
Yeah.
point out a couple of advantages to being a foreign manager in China as well.
Yes. Yeah, sure.
And one thing is that I have to say that I think that Chinese are incredibly hospitable and
Yes.
very welcoming to foreigners. And
Yes.
and you might not think that, but it's really the case. And if you're a foreigner, you represent a company with a good product that is recognized by the industry, it's
You're
going to
right.
be much easier for you to get meetings with key people because they'll give you face and they'll want to
Right.
meet with you. And it's a
Right.
lot different from the United States. For example, we sell into hospitals in China, and we could meet with the president of the hospital. In
Right.
the United States, it's really, really difficult for any vendor to get a meeting at that level.
Mm.
So there are a lot of advantages to being a foreigner in
An expat
China's.
manager.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
absolutely.
no, 100% agree. Part of the reason is, so there's really two types of company. There's, well, three. There's the foreign and the state owned, the Chinese states owned. And the way a lot of Chinese people believe is, if you work for a state company, you tend to have connections, guanxi. If you work for a foreign company, it's all about your ability. So this is part of the reason why they like to work for a foreign company, and that generally speaking, Chinese people do like do like the U.S. Uh, Not everybody, but most people do, and they actually like foreigners a lot. You're right. So